Okay, sure. Hi everybody. My name is Chidinma Iwueke. I am a partner at Microtraction. So Microtraction, with the short of it, I'll actually keep it quite sweet, is an early stage angel investment fund that was founded to kind of fill the pre-seed gap, funding gap that we had identified here in Africa. Our whole view is that Africa's transition into a more sustainable and developed economy is going to hinge on really remarkable entrepreneurs that are leveraging three key things. We believe in technology, innovation, and capital to solve some of the biggest challenges that we're seeing on the continent. So essentially about 2 years ago, we set out to essentially be the most accessible and preferred pre-seed funding company for funding source for African entrepreneurs. So as far as the impact on that COVID has had on us, on me as an individual, evidently an extrovert, I may not be. I am quite content in my nice little happy place in my house, as you can see. and I've just not really felt it as badly. And part of that is because we work from home anyway. We are a highly remote team. So we actually don't have physical offices that we go into every single day. So we work remotely. So that hasn't been too bad on that end. And then, to be honest, I moved here 2 years ago, and my family is all my core friends are kind of all scattered across the world. So there's really nobody that's like, knocking down my door to see me every day. So it's been manageable in that respect. And as far as a company, for us, really what COVID did, once we kind of saw what was coming down the pipeline, we essentially pulled back a bit and we started focusing on our portfolio companies because it was really important to us that our house was in order. So we had onboarded, maybe over the last 2-3 months, we had onboarded about 7 portfolio companies. So those individuals, like those companies we speak to on a regular basis once a week. But our older companies like Kareem, the ones that we onboarded maybe in 2017, we don't speak to on a regular basis, but we had to essentially start talking to every single one of them to make sure that they were prepared for what was coming down the pipeline, just to alert them of what was going on and to advise as much as we can around funding, around making sure you have the right capital, making sure that you're taking care of your employees, things of that nature. So it took us maybe about 2 or 3 weeks to really kind of speak to every single person and feel comfortable that they were on the journey in the right space. And then, to be honest, for us, we're very early stage. This relationship is a partnership, and we essentially partner with people for 10 to 15 years. And that partnership is sometimes longer than most marriages that you see. So it's really important to us that we continue down that journey. So strategically, as a fund, not much really changed in that respect. So once we got our house together, we were back on looking for we look for companies that are building infrastructure solutions for Africa. So that's what we essentially went back to doing.
Hearing that, yeah. What about you, Kareem? You want to give us stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So, hi guys, my name is Kareem. I'm from Egypt, one of the co-founders at a company called TribeTactics. So we're based in Dublin, Ireland, but we work in Europe and the US at the moment, and we're trying to find our way into Africa as well, back home. So, basically, what's that?
Come to us.
I know, it's a matter of time. My co-founder is actually in Zambia right now visiting my parents. Long story. But yeah, basically what we do as a company is we help businesses create their very own original series. So you heard that right. If you are thinking of Netflix original series, we believe that the new wave of marketing and the new wave of getting people's attention, whether it's for a marketing purpose, a sales purpose, anything like that, HR, recruitment, or even retention, which is a big focus for a lot of companies right now, you really have to start thinking outside of the box. And there's always going to be someone who has more advertising dollars to spend more than you and I. So what's the solution? The only solution is to actually have people come to you by way of creating something entertaining for them, such as a talk show, a podcast series, a documentary series, and get them to actually binge watch content about your B2B company. We're focused on B2B at the moment. So we've been up and running for about a year and a half right now. Prior to that, I used to work in HubSpot. It's a marketing company. Prior to that, I used to work in LinkedIn. So two kind of like big corporates. But yeah, with the company, we've been together for about a year and a half. And it's an exciting time for us because up until now, we've been selling a productized service. But this month, we're going to be launching a machine learning AI platform, which is really going to revolutionize, hopefully, the way people actually create shows and actually repurpose each episode into tons of smaller content pieces. So we like to say that we can turn 1 hour of your time into a full month of content. And we are actually raising at the moment, so that's just a side note. But yeah, in terms of moving swiftly on,
bro. I think that's definitely what at least speaks to the topic of why we're here. Like, how do you actually survive? How do startups actually survive in high risk, low trust environments? And so always be pitching. There is no platform that is too small or too big for you to say what you do and what you need. We've got an investor on the call. We've got a startup on the call. Anything can happen. So always be pitching.
100%. And just to add, like on a COVID note or a COVID context, I mean, obviously it's not ideal. A lot of people, I think that right now a lot of people have luckily overcome that initial shock, and they're like, right, what do we need to do right now? How do we get our house in order? As you were saying, but in the meantime as well, how do we adopt the right mindset in this situation? That's I'll hand it over to Nubi now.
Like you said, there is that initial shock. So when anything drastically happens, there is that, oh, what do I do? And one could easily fall to that, oh, everybody's actually running in this direction, I might as well just run with them. Like, after all, they're running from something or they're running to something, might as well join. And I would like to just you guys to share from an entrepreneur's point of view as well as an investor's point of view, what could be those pitfalls that startups, investors, founders should be aware of or should avoid, just from again a natural reaction as to like, oh, let's start doing this. For example, like we've seen the massive layoffs. You'll be like, should you start firing everybody? Should you start like reining in your credits and things like that? Like, just again, what are the pitfalls that perhaps you've seen, or like again, just to share what we should be aware of? We'll start with Kareem, and then we'll go to Chidinma.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned philosophical earlier, Nubi. So I'm going to go on a philosophical tip here, but basically, it's something that I really personally believe that, like, you can either have a victim mentality or a hero's mentality, and it's really about the way you think, right? Like, whatever you think, you are correct, right? So with that in mind, there's a lot of people that need help right now, and if we continue being in the victim mentality, we're not helping them, and we're most definitely not helping ourselves. Rather, there's a lot of people who need help. So what you could do is you could position yourself from an entrepreneur's perspective or a company perspective. You can position yourself as, you know what, these guys have never needed me more than ever before. There's a lot of companies out there that are about to lose and are in the process of losing millions and millions, and they're willing to spend tens of thousands to mitigate that. And this is a huge opportunity for a lot of people, I think, tuning in. By really understanding that mindset shift and really understanding how they can position themselves as a hero by way of explaining to companies. I was actually thinking about this morning, explaining to companies two different things. Number one, this is how much money you're losing, and number two, this is how we can help you stop losing at that rate. Here's an innovative solution, whether through technology or solution. Here's an innovative solution in general that could help mitigate that.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, yeah, perfect. So I agree with that. I think a couple of things I would say for entrepreneurs: don't pivot just for the sake of pivoting, because we're in this COVID kind of like environment right now. Because at the end of it, remember the vision, right? Go back to your drawing board, to the beginning when you set your vision, right? Remember what you plan on doing. Remember where you wanted to go, and make sure
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And yeah, I mean, spot on. I think I was like hear from you guys, like, again, perhaps starting with Kareem, like you're a startup, you've been in this for a year and a half. You're trying to raise, and again, like the actualities or like the practicalities of like what's going on actually is hitting you because like I don't know, like is it easier, is it harder? People are again changing valuations and all. I just wonder if you could just share a few things as you as a startup, and like Chidinma has said, like you don't want to be complacent, but also you don't want to be drastically like pivot, like changing your business all over, like just drastically changing your business. But like, what are the things that you're doing part of TribeTactics or like you've seen other people do as well? So okay, this has happened, things have changed. We've done X, Y, Z to again survive and thrive in this environment. And you can speak to fundraising as well, like perhaps like how things might have changed or how your approach has changed, or perhaps what you're hearing from investors right now for your startup.
Perfect. So yeah, we're only right now finalizing our deck to actually go out and fundraise properly. We've raised a small round so far, but that was earlier this year. But now we want to do like a proper seed round. But I say that to say we haven't actually engaged with that many investors just yet. So I can speak more to. We've actually been pretty bad at raising money. We're better at like sales and just going to the customer because we don't know. We're still learning how to get better at the investment, way of thinking and things like that. But we're learning on the job, and we're hopefully going to be in a better position soon. But yeah, speaking of sales and business models, which is my favorite topic, basically, as I was saying earlier, like it really comes down to understanding who are the people who are most affected, and who are the people who are so affected they're willing to pay to get rid of whatever situation they're having right now. And if you think about it, like this could actually apply to any of us dialed in right now. Like if this was the statement that we're starting with, which is basically there's a lot of people who are having a tougher time than usual right now, to say the least. And what segment of those people are experiencing such a high need, right? With entrepreneurship, it's always about the need and solving the problem. Well, it's never been a bigger problem than right now for a lot of companies. How do we position ourselves that we can actually become a hero for them or a savior for them in that regard? So in theory, this is lovely, but now it's about, how do you actually put that into practice? So we don't have all the answers. We're still figuring it out. But one, I'm trying to avoid the word pivot right now so that I don't get criticized. But one different way of thinking that we're thinking of right now is basically, okay, so we help companies build shows, which is super cool, super innovative, and then after that we help them repurpose the content. But right now, the last thing some companies want to do is do something new in terms of something innovative. Many of them are definitely in terms, trying to manage their costs, manage retention, so on and so forth. So right now, what we're focusing on are people who already have video content that can be repurposed. For example, right now, we notice that there's a huge surge in more companies creating, let's say, webinars, for example, digital events such as this one. This is all content that is ripe for repurposing. And, and so we're focused on that now. Rather than talking about the new shiny thing of building a show and all that, we're actually saying, you know what, why don't we talk about what you already have? How much time and money did it take you to put this webinar together, or this video or this digital video experience together? How about we take this one asset and make it 30 for you or 40 for you? You're actually improving the chances that you're going to get an ROI from it, and you're keeping your costs low because you're actually using a more streamlined solution to do that, as opposed to using the humans on your team who are like salaried employees who are, quote unquote expensive. This is not the best use of their time. You need them for strategy, creative thinking, things that no one else can do except them. All this manual content creation work is something that we can take care of. So I guess for anyone listening in, I speak about our company because it's the only thing I have experience in, but you can probably match that to whatever industry you're in and figure out, like, I used to do A, B, and C, but now I'm going to focus on B and C specifically because that's really where the opportunity is to help people save money or make money. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I definitely like. I wouldn't say you're making a pivot. It's more like just again focused. Like you're saying you're going from make the content and repurpose the content. So you'll say, what content do you have? Let's repurpose it for you, and again making more out of what you have already, which makes a lot of sense. So Chidinma, so like you just said there, like they suck at raising money, and so I just wonder if you could you help a brother out, like what are those fundraising tips? And when I say fundraising tips, I don't mean fundraising in the normal world, but fundraising in the reality that we're in right now. Like again, you said you're moving from investing in new things to more focus on your portfolio. But at the same time, you're also looking at, okay, what else is out there? And I'm wondering, like, from a positioning point of view, from how to approach this, like, what would you say startups should be looking, founders should be looking at, as that's, like, again, how they actually go about fundraising right now?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of interesting because everybody's at a different stage, right? If you were fundraising prior to this, you would have been in later stages. So it's all about like identifying which of those investors are still playing, are in the game, and trying to focus on those guys and closing them as quickly as possible, right? But because you're so early in your fundraising journey, then I think a few things to keep in mind, right? When you're looking for investors, just remember that we're in Africa, and Africa tends to be quite opaque for international investors, right? They don't exactly know what's going on the ground. They don't have the market knowledge. They really don't. They're a lot more risk adverse because they don't have a lot of information. They're not sitting here amongst us, right? That are in the current market that you're actually deploying the product. So So it's important for you to, when you're fundraising, look for local investors or international investors that have the local knowledge, because those guys are more willing to invest. Like Microtraction, we are investing in our companies. We have about 6 or 7 companies going to IC next week, right? So we are still actively investing because we get this market. We understand, right, what's going on. And we also know we're in Nigeria. Oil prices on top of COVID is killing us here. But we also know that that's part of the game. When we came into Nigeria, we knew that FX risk was a big thing. So when that happened, it didn't throw us off our game, right? We just accept that this is what it is, and that we look to long term. So look for local investors that really understand the market and actually understand your space and what it takes to operate within your market. So that's one. Number 2 would be make it as soft and intro as possible. I think investors are no longer, at this point in time, they're not going to entertain the cold kind of calls or the cold emails. So it's better for you to reach out to your circle, your network, whether it be existing investors or your network of friends. You can reach out to me. I'm a friend now, we just met, so like reach out to people and ask for those soft intros to people that they know, investors that they know would be interested in what you're building and are still interested in looking for, amazing startups and founders to support. So that's definitely, those are the 2 key things. And I think if you do that, eliminate them right away. If people don't allow people to take you on 8,000 dates and then they don't want to marry you, you get what I mean? So you have to just, if you're not, dinner is okay, but you can't be doing dinner every week for the next year. So you have to just kind of fill them out and like eliminate them quickly so that you save on time, because fundraising in a non-COVID world is difficult. It's probably one of the most difficult things you would do. And it's extremely distracting for a business, let alone fundraising in a COVID world. So you have to be almost selfish in your approach. Make sure that you just kind of like, call them out quick, and that's fine. And you move on. Try not to linger because there's no need.
100%.
Try not to linger. There's no need. That's for the prince. Try not to linger. There's no need. It's like speed dating right now, and I think it goes both ways, because investors as well, like I think right now are really laser focused as like what they're looking to do and what they want to do, at least the good ones, and so it takes a short while to know if this is actually going to happen or not. So yeah, just keep it going. I really like the point as to like warm introductions as well. Like you really want to like. Because I mean, right now our humanity as a race is being challenged, and so like you want to be as human as possible in talking about all these things. It's not just about the numbers anymore, but yeah, that still matters. Let's just like switch gears, because right now, what one thing that at least I've heard from the rounds is that it's really the resilience. Is really those who can like really power through, who will be prudent, who will be like smart enough to survive, that will come out on top of this. Of course, there's the runway people that have money to burn, but that's a different category. But the majority of us are really lean and all. And I'm just wondering, like again, like perhaps we'll start with Chidinma. Like, what are those traits? What are those like virtues, characteristics or kind of people, or what kind of like skill what kind of skill and behaviors do you think would you expect from entrepreneurs that would definitely like ride this wave and actually come out on top? Like how, or even people on the call, like how should our thinking be different? How should our approach of doing business be different? Again, to come out on top when it comes to, again, what we're going through right now.
Yeah. So exactly what Kareem kind of mentioned, because he called it a pivot, but it's not a pivot. You have to be creative. That's the biggest thing right now. Adaptability is key, right? Being creative is important in this journey, because there's nothing wrong with keeping to your vision. Your vision should essentially stay the same, but the mission, which is just how you get there, you should be questioning that every single second. Like every day, you should be like, is how we're getting there, is what I'm implementing, is that the right way to do it? Is it factoring in new technology? Is it factoring in the economic situation? Is it factoring in this? Is it factoring in that? You have to constantly you literally need to challenge yourself every single day as an entrepreneur. And this is like outside of COVID. If you're doing this every single day, challenging yourself, COVID will just be a difficult situation that you can definitely overcome. Do you get what I mean?
Preach.
It's something that needs to be a habit of just like always questioning, always asking yourself, is this approach the right approach? Should I be doing it this way? What else can I put into this? What else can I do? You know, like just constantly push yourself to that edge, because if you're not doing it, your competitor is probably doing it. And if your competitor is doing it and you're you're like 2 months behind, those 2 months could cost you millions and possibly billions of dollars, right? So it's really important to be adaptable, be extremely creative, and keep your environment and the changes that are happening around you in mind, and try to figure out a way to build your solutions and put kind of like structures and processes in place for you that actually put those things into account. And then, of course, being persevere for sure. And also, you know, please just have this hunger, that hunger to like thrive and not just survive this thing. If you want to survive, I'm happy for you. You should survive, but you can go and survive on that end. You get what I mean? Like you can go and sit on the corner and survive on your own. We want you to thrive. We want you to not just want to survive. We want you to look for ways to thrive in this environment. Go for the money. That's what you're here for. Go for the money. Find a way to make money, make some revenue. You know, so you don't have to go out here and raise from me, but I want you to come to me though, but then you don't have to go out here and be a slave for the investor. You know, get your own back, go get your money, right? And then come to me, please, because I want to support you. It's not just money that we give support. We give, but that's generally what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I heard it a while ago. It said if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. So yeah, talk to an investor, try to get some advice, and they were like, now I'm giving you this advice. I think I will be part of this. Here's some money as well. So but yeah, let's hear from Kareem. Kareem, like how's your thinking changed? Like how have you been challenged to like think differently or act differently? Again, like you said, not just to survive, but again to thrive and make the most pretty much of what we're going through right now as an entrepreneur.
Bro, you want me to go now after Chidinma? I can't top that. I'll not even gonna try. No, but I just want to say just a quick thing on that is because I completely agree with everything that you were saying. I love that you mentioned as well that it's not just about the money, it's about the support as well. And I just want to say this out on the record, but like the motivational power that you have, this coaching power, could benefit a lot of people. And sometimes, you know, in coaching they say, right, don't give people the answer, just ask them the right questions and all this stuff until they find out their own answers. Many times people know exactly what they need to do, but exactly as you were saying, like they just have to get into that right mindset. You know, if a Nubi can get me in the right mindset, then I will already have the answer within. I know what I need to do for my situation or whatever the case may be. Sorry, Nubi, do you mind just asking the question again?
It's like you're still moved by that salmon. Okay. I was just wondering, again, like since COVID, like as an entrepreneur, now let's zoom out of like what your function or things that you do, like what path, like what traits or behavior or like how you do things have actually come out to be very important as to like again you thriving or surviving this environment, or what have you seen in entrepreneurs or friends that you know, your network, that are like, okay, this person being XYZ or having this virtue or having this kind of behavior or character as leverage is keeping them on top of things right now.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, let me see. I think it's just a matter of being avoiding being the victim and really being a hero for other people around you, and understanding that there's something that I only tell to close friends, not because I'm keeping it a secret, but just because I never had the opportunity. But it's just this like deeply held belief that I have, that everything that happened, and maybe it's grounded in like religious beliefs or what have you, but I think it's a universal thought, which is everything that happens is good, but it is your job to find out why that is good. You know, there was one time when I was working for a company, I asked for a promotion. it didn't go through. I was very upset. I thought I was qualified. A few months later, I got a job that was like twice as better in terms of like overall, right, in a different company. Sometimes you just have to wait until you see. Sometimes it's not as obvious to see what the good is in something, and I like to think of this as like really like training grounds, because if you can overcome this, imagine like there's a lot of people who are giving up right now, right? And then there's a step up, which is people who are in survival mode, and then there are people, as Chidinma was saying, who are really in thrive mode. And if you're in thrive mode right now, you're going to be unbeatable, unstoppable after this is over. This is the perfect gym for you. You know, I used to train to be a swimmer back in college. Didn't go so far, unfortunately. But one of the things they had us do is swim with 2.5 kg ankle weights on each one of our legs, so that on race day you can explode because you don't have any weights. You're not used to, you know, you can just fly through that. So I think overall it's just a matter of like really getting your mindset right, because beyond that, like you will have you will know exactly what to do. You are in your industry, you will know how to creatively you know, not necessarily pivot, and by pivot I mean like exactly like your definition, Chidinma, in terms of like actually doing something else. Like I was doing X and now I'm doing Y, which is completely different. Stay within your company's vision. I mean, you started it for a reason. There's an opportunity for a reason. You may just decide that, you know what, I'm going to adjust slightly to the situation to make the most of helping other people, which just so happens to get you paid. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Let's go to the untouchables. So right now people are like laying people off, and I also wonder, from your perspective as an investor, as a founder, what are the things that you would really like, you think this is the last thing you want to actually go deep in your hands into, whether it's cutting back on your sales budget, or also cutting back on your marketing, cutting back on this, like what would you characterize as things that people should be considered as like untouchables? Like don't touch it, like the band you say, feel it, leave it, don't touch it. Yeah, let's start with Chidinma.
So for me, actually, I don't think there's such a thing as untouchable. I think everything is up for grabs. And I will say, the reason I say that, the reason I say that is that, look, you know, this is a very weird place. We're in a very odd kind of situation. So I think if you had developed a company and you had put in place the right culture, which would include having open communication, making sure that people have skin in the game, things of that nature, because we're talking about startups here. We're not talking about some GE or some companies that you're just a hand for hire, right? You are building something with a group of people, and that group of people is likely quite small. It's like less than 20 people. So there's nothing wrong with making sure that everybody has skin in the game at this moment. And if you have open communication, you should have been able to say, look, guys, this is the situation. So let's go back to the roadmap, right? Let's go back to what's our plan? What's the vision, like Kareem has said? Okay, so how do we want to get there? What are we going to focus on over the next 6 months to a year? Okay, so if we're doing a slight shift to adjust to the market, what does that entail? Like, what does that need? So now you have to kind of build out like a product roadmap, some sort of execution strategy roadmap, right? And once you build that out, you're like, okay, since we're going to focus on pivoting slightly, like just tilting our business model a little bit, we need to build out this digital payment platform or something for that. So tech, you might not have to take on a 30% cut. Tech might at that point maybe see a 5 to 10% cut, because in the first 3 months, we need our tech to be top notch, and we need them to be essentially pushing out this product because we want it to be ready within the next month or two, right? And then sales, where are you going? You know, you're not doing it like who are you calling? Where are you going? There's nowhere to go. You could be doing phone calls, but if you're making a slight tweak, sales may not be necessarily a big, you know, piece of that right now. So sales takes a cut. But 3 months from now, when you're ready to start selling that product, then you can have your tech guys take a bigger cut and your sales team get a higher payment, right? You adjust it. You got to adjust it as you move so that it fits your company and it fits what you guys are trying to do. And if everybody is in on it together, then everybody would understand why their pay is what it is at that moment in time. So no such thing as untouchables. All of them, including the founder, the salesperson, the tech person, I'm sorry if there's any kids, I just cursed, but like anybody else is up for grabs when it comes to this, because we all need to sacrifice. This is that kind of mode. We're in that mode. You need to kind of like sacrifice a little bit for the greater good, and so everybody is up for on the cutting board, in my view.
Yeah, I mean I mean I definitely get you, because I read a blog from one of these, like, I mean I won't call them a startup, but they're a startup anyways, but they read a blog as to like how they were actually cutting things, and you're right, like CEOs were getting 25% cuts, like C-suite levels, and then employees were getting full-ons, like you said, sales were slashed into half. It was more of a thing of like, okay, while we're laying you off, or like again taking you off salary or off payroll, when things recover and when things actually pick up, like you have that again first in kind of like option as well. So yeah, like I definitely agree with that. Again, adjust as you go and see where you definitely need to cut things down. But I think that kind of like raises a question from my mind as to, for you to even start making this kind of like cuts in the first place, like did you get it wrong? Did you get it wrong at first? Like is the way we allocate resources, the way we think about growth, the way we think about scaling startups, like why were we not like optimizing from the get-go? Why is it now that things are actually forcing us to say, okay, let's cut here and cut there? And it's just me just thinking aloud now. And that's you, Chidinma, again to answer that question. I just wonder, like, does that mean that perhaps there was wastage in the first place, and this is now forcing us to rethink prioritization and how we actually optimize for use of resources? Yeah, give that a go.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting question, actually, because the answer, I hate to give you this answer, but the answer is maybe. Right. And it depends on the company. There are companies that are not optimized for growth, essentially, is what that is. So they're just hiring without having just throwing money around, right? Without really having it backed up by like the value that individual is bringing in, and having that value drive what you're hiring for, right? So I think there are companies like that, but then there are also companies that were optimized for growth, and then this happened where, like, if I'm doing biz dev, for instance, and a company that's what the company needs very early on. Let's say if you're during the growth stage of your company, your business person becomes like a very big piece of your team. So if my company is at growth stage and I'm doing biz dev, and I'm looking to talk to the Access of the world, the big banks, the big telcos, and all those things, that biz dev person all of a sudden, because of COVID, because everything has shut down, now becomes kind of obsolete. So there's no reason, I hate to do this though, but there's no reason to still pay them, right? Because the output that they're having, not to still pay them as high as you were. Don't slash anybody, completely lay off people, but there's no reason to pay them as high as you were, because their output, right, has been decreased just because of the environment. It has nothing to do with their own performance, right? So that's a case of where a company optimized for growth and hiring and all those things, but this current situation just kind of knocks them right off. But I would say, to be honest, I would probably say 70% of companies are not optimized. In all honesty, people just like, once that money comes in, you get like, I don't know, your brain starts, something starts happening in your mind. You see money, you just start spraying and showing the love, and next thing you know, you run out of cash, so that happens too. But I think 30% or so of people are really like, we're optimized and are hit hard because of COVID.
I think as the bigger the company gets, the more ambiguous it becomes,
Mm-hmm.
You see money flowing in and out, and you're like, you have no idea how this is happening, and you're like, this is nuts, so yeah, I'll tell you some stories off the record afterwards.
All right, well, Kareem, what about you? Like, do you have like any untouchables, or like right now the way you're using your resources, whether your talent, like a human resource, or your like capital, like money? Are there things that you're cutting back on, or things that you're saying, okay, we will still continue to spend in this area just because it's like critical and crucial to our growth, or if we survive this?
Yeah, that's a really good point. We are, it's a bit harder for us because we were operating under one business model, which is like a service kind of model. Subscription still, but services. But we were also in the process of launching the product, which will happen later this month. Which we're super excited about. But also we feel this product will be at a lower price point than our services, naturally, because you're paying for tech, not for a human, like a set of humans' time. And so for us, because we're in a bit of a crossroads right now, it's harder for us to answer because like we still need to do marketing. We are in the marketing industry, so we definitely need to keep like leading the way as far as we're concerned in this regard. But also we want to promote the new product as we take it to launch. Sales is also extremely important.
Does that mean you're deprioritizing things like perhaps hiring people and just like us focused on you getting this out the door? Again, are there any trade-offs where again your research would have gone to in the first place?
Yeah, we were, I guess maybe more like focusing more on like just looking at the scope. The scope differs. So for example, up until recently we were actually hiring, but let's say now we're interested in kind of like a set number of hours per week, with a contractor or a freelancer, something like that. So it's not really 0 or 1 for us in terms of like binary. I really see the world as a dial. So 90%, 80%, 50%, 20%. I don't think we can turn anything off to 0 for us right now. Maybe because we're not big enough, not small enough. Like I feel like we cannot turn anything off to 0. It's just a matter of DJing it so that we're just adjusting the different like levels as such. But overall, marketing and sales have never been more important. Yeah.
We're almost at time, so I've got 2 main questions I want to like get through you guys and hear what your thoughts are. So quickly, the first question is perhaps as an investor, an entrepreneur as well, like what trends have you seen on the back of this event as like again opportunities? Like okay, we should be looking at this industry, that industry, this space, that space, this kind of like business model, that kind of business model. Just again, what trends have come to your view as a result of this, or that are more pronounced now? Yeah, so let's Chidinma give that a stab, and then Kareem, and then we'll go to the last question.
Sure. So I think there, I'll answer this, but then I'll like bring it back to Africa. So there's been a huge shift towards like e-commerce, right? And you're seeing a lot of investors looking for e-commerce companies, or even like companies that are doing what Hopin does, which is just kind of like digitizing kind of the workforce, essentially, right? Those type of companies. So there's a shift towards that. And you see that a lot in developed markets. And you're seeing some investors within Africa and are also trying to kind of like err towards that. But I generally say this when it comes to investors in Africa, right? Investing in an e-commerce company, good and all, right? But then we still have the infrastructure kind of issues that we have. That's not going to go away post-COVID, right? So if infrastructure is difficult and logistics is even more difficult, is it still worthwhile investing in a company that heavily relies on that, right? So I don't think it immediately translates as well what's happening within mature markets and emerging markets like we have here in Nigeria. So that's the one thing I want to preface that with, is that like, yeah, there's all this shift, but I wouldn't transport it directly here because it's not going to work for this market, because this market is just different than and underdeveloped than other markets. So we're seeing those types of trends. But for us, I said this a little bit in the beginning, the underlining thing, yes, we like to invest in tech entrepreneurs, but we really, really love investing in infrastructure plays. Companies that are providing like some sort of, let's say if there's a company right now that's like, oh, I'm going to help people digitize payments for, online community, Sure, we're going to love that kind of company, right? Because it's more of like, it's a company that's essentially mobile first, which is where we are in Africa. It's a company that is doing work that to us has scalability opportunities post-COVID, right? So essentially the thing is there's trends, but I don't think they like directly translate. So we have to be very careful when we look at that for Africa as a whole. But infrastructure plays, we would take that any day, COVID or no COVID.
Yeah, cool. How about you, Kareem?
Yeah, so I think that they say when one door closes, another door opens. I think one door that was like absolutely blown out of proportion is more people doing stuff using like conferencing tools and just video in general, and like to give it a general term is anything to do with the remote industry and the remote culture. One company that's not going through a recession right now is Zoom, right? There are some companies that would secretly, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but there are some companies that would secretly wish this never ends because this is unprecedented growth for them in that regard. I would say look at those industries. So this is easy for me to say because there's such obvious examples, but like the Zooms, the Slacks, anybody that is looking at like the video space in general, the streaming space in general. Because two things are going to happen. Like, number one is the immediate opportunity right now, but beyond that as well, I think people are getting into the habit of like sharing a lot of like good news with each other in terms of like, hey, COVID's bad, but look, the water in, I don't know, like in Venice is clearer than ever before, or like, the air is getting like clearer in different places. So people are always looking for these positive success stories, and a big part of it is people just staying at home and not polluting the environment in that regard. So I believe that, not to mention, there's a lot of companies who are saving money by having everybody work from home, right? Of course, my take on this is that, and I'm not an expert, but my take on this is that even after COVID, people will be like, you know what, we're gonna really make our work from home, policies super flexible, because like we saved a lot of money, we are not in a rush to have you guys all come back here, and so previously you're allowed 2 weeks, you know what, let's call that 6 months, you know what I mean? So because everyone now is getting a crash course in how to be a perfect, let's say, remote employee, and all of us here are entrepreneurs. So let's say, hey, like, how do we tap into that? How do we tap not into just the obvious opportunity, which is COVID? And yes, I really do think it's an opportunity. We must think of it as an opportunity, huge opportunity. But beyond that as well, you've made me build a new habit now, and I have this new habit. I'm gonna be stuck to my new ways now.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a rush to go back to the office per se. I like working from home. Me as like, let's say a lot of people, for example, would have the same idea. So really jumping into that and seeing where the opportunities lie.
Awesome. So let's wrap up with, again, just a one-word answer. So what is that one thing that people should have on their mind, again, when it comes to actually, again, thriving and not surviving? So again, perhaps just look at it from an entrepreneur's point of view as well as an investor's point of view. Just one thing that people should have in mind as they go through this.
Adapt.
Awesome. Kareem?
Can I just say a sentence?
All right.
Yeah.
It's the title of one of my favorite books, and it goes, "The obstacle is the way."
The obstacle is the way.
Yep.
This will be fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing and for being very real on this call. And I hope people that actually watch this really enjoyed it as well. Go check them out. We'll be like in the networking sessions and stuff. Chidinma, Kareem, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the conference, guys. And see you guys around.
Thank you, guys.
The obstacle is the way. Cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.